Human beings like to believe they are guided by logic. We admire rational thinking. We praise clear arguments. We convince ourselves that decisions are made after careful analysis. But if we observe real-life interactions closely, a different pattern emerges. Emotion moves first. Reason arrives later to justify what the heart has already chosen. In nearly every social exchange, there is an invisible emotional current flowing beneath the surface. Words float on top of that current, but they do not control its direction. The individuals who excel socially understand this deeply. They know that facts may inform, but feelings persuade. They understand that when you shift someone's emotional state, you shift their openness, their resistance, and even their memory of the interaction itself. Think about how differently you respond when you feel appreciated compared to when you feel criticized. The content of the message may be identical, yet your reaction changes completely depending on your emotional condition. When you feel respected, your mind relaxes. You listen more generously. You interpret ambiguity in a positive way. But when you feel dismissed or threatened, your body tightens. Your attention narrows. Even neutral statements may sound hostile. This is not weakness. It is biology. The human nervous system is designed to protect before it analyzes. This is why emotional awareness is not optional in communication. It is foundational. High emotional intelligence is often misunderstood as charm or persuasion technique. In truth, it begins with perception. It is the ability to detect subtle shifts in tone, posture, breathing, and expression. It is recognizing when someone's enthusiasm fades, when frustration begins to rise, or when anxiety silently enters the room. Most conflicts do not begin with disagreement. They begin with emotional misalignment. When one person speaks from logic while the other is still operating from hurt or insecurity, the conversation fractures. Facts bounce off emotional walls. To move someone emotionally does not mean manipulating them. It means aligning with their internal state. When someone feels seen, even briefly, something softens. Psychological defenses lower. The brain shifts from protection mode to connection mode. In this state, cooperation becomes possible. When a person senses genuine empathy, they no longer need to fight for recognition. They can redirect energy toward understanding. This is why a simple acknowledgement, "I understand why that matters to you," can dissolve tension that hours of argument could not. Emotion carries momentum. Positive emotions expand thinking. They increase creativity, trust, and willingness. Negative emotions narrow thinking. They focus attention on threat and self-preservation. Skilled communicators learn to gently guide emotional climate toward expansion. They encourage hope rather than fear. They highlight possibility rather than deficiency. They create a sense of shared direction rather than opposition. When people feel emotionally elevated, they become more receptive to ideas they might otherwise resist. Emotional states also shape memory. We remember how interactions felt more vividly than the specific words exchanged. A conversation that leaves someone feeling valued becomes associated with safety. A conversation that leaves someone feeling belittled becomes associated with avoidance. Over time, these emotional imprints accumulate and define relationships. This is why emotional influence, when used responsibly, creates lasting impact. It does not rely on pressure. It builds resonance. Ultimately, influencing emotion is not about dramatic gestures. It begins with internal steadiness. If you are emotionally reactive, you amplify instability. If you are grounded, you become an anchor. People instinctively gravitate toward emotional stability because it signals safety, and safety opens doors that logic alone cannot. To understand why emotion governs so much of human interaction, we must examine the sequence of processing inside the brain. Emotional circuits activate faster than analytical circuits. Before a sentence is fully processed, tone and facial expression have already triggered a reaction. This explains why a gentle voice can calm tension instantly, while sharp tone can escalate it before the actual message is understood. Emotion acts as a filter. If the filter is positive, information passes through smoothly. If the filter is negative, even constructive feedback feels threatening. Skilled communicators are aware of this sequence. They regulate themselves before attempting to influence others. Self-regulation is the first form of leadership. When your breathing is steady, your voice lowers naturally. When your posture is open, your gestures slow. These nonverbal signals reassure others on a subconscious level. Emotional steadiness is contagious. In group settings, one regulated individual can stabilize an entire room. Conversely, one agitated presence can destabilize it. This is why influence begins internally. Beyond regulation, effective emotional influence requires sincerity. Humans are remarkably sensitive to artificial enthusiasm or exaggerated warmth. When emotional expression does not align with genuine intention, subtle mistrust forms. Authentic emotional resonance occurs when your concern is real and your delivery is aligned. Encouragement must come from belief. Appreciation must be specific. Empathy must be attentive. Otherwise, emotional language becomes noise. Positive emotion is particularly powerful because it broadens perception. When someone feels hopeful, they are more willing to consider alternatives. When someone feels inspired, they generate their own motivation. Pressure can force short-term compliance, but inspiration fuels sustainable engagement. Leaders who understand this focus on emotional uplift rather than fear-based urgency. Fear creates obedience. Hope creates initiative. However, emotional influence is not limited to positivity. It also involves acknowledging difficult feelings without amplifying them. When someone expresses frustration, denying it invalidates their experience. But when you calmly reflect it back, it sounds like that was disappointing. You validate without escalating. Validation does not mean agreement. It means recognition. Recognition diffuses emotional intensity because it satisfies the need to be understood. Once that need is met, logic can enter the conversation. The most persuasive individuals are rarely the loudest or the most forceful. They are the most attuned. They sense shifts in energy. They adjust pacing. They pause when resistance rises. They accelerate when enthusiasm builds. They treat emotion as dynamic rather than static. This flexibility allows them to guide interactions smoothly without visible effort. In the end, emotional intelligence is not about controlling others. It is about shaping environments where others feel safe enough to align willingly. When emotion is honored rather than ignored, cooperation becomes natural. And when people feel emotionally connected, they move toward shared outcomes not because they're compelled, but because they want to.